Well, we're into the second month of 2021 now, and I think it's fair to say that 2020, sucked. Oh, and you'd think that video games could be a reprieve from that, wouldn't you? But oh no. There were some huge letdowns that were really just the cherry on top of the dumpster fire that was last year. With everyone staying inside to protect their loved ones and stay-at-home restrictions tightening, gaming had every chance to make a good impression on the mainstream audience. And sure, we don't want to say that video games weren't a huge comfort to many people, us included. But there were also those moments where disappointments, big and small, trivial and grave, raised their ugly heads. Today, we're taking a trip down memory lane and ranking the top 5 video game moments that were just as crappy as the year itself. And if you're thinking, oh, well, it's obvious what number 1 is gonna be here, well, we're not so lazy as to lean on cheap jabs at cyberpunk bugs. Come on. Remember, a like and subscribe helps this channel out massively, so if you liked this video, please do us that favor. Your support means a lot to us, and it helps us make even better content for you. Okay, let's get into it. We've been waiting for 5 years for a new Halo game, and it was so close we could almost touch it. Hey, we're big supporters of not rushing out a half-finished game and eradicating crunch. But oof, were we disappointed when Microsoft told us that Halo Infinite was delayed until Holiday 21 at the earliest. What was almost worse was what we saw was, at best. Fans weren't impressed by the Microsoft showcase in July, slating the lackluster graphics and last-gen feel. A silver lining for the delay though, at least anyone who wants a next-gen Xbox can probably find one by then. Speaking of which. If there was one thing that could even begin to make a dent in the horribleness of the world, it was the promise of a brand new generation of gaming. The horrific death toll and economic devastation that COVID-19 has left in its wake led to console manufacturers struggling to produce hardware to meet demand for both Sony and Microsoft. Of course, we couldn't just have a nice thing, could we? If it wasn't difficult enough to get your hands on a console, what with the chaos of pre-ordering, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S have proven to be lucrative opportunities for scalpers and bots. Okay, some of you are getting ready to quit watching. Hold on. Marvel's Avengers single-player campaign? Really good. Everything else? Not so good. The biggest problem we had was that its success was entirely dependent on the quality and the regularity of new stuff. If charging a premium for cosmetics and animations wasn't enough to make you curl your lip, the multiplayer game was just not good. It just wasn't. It had boring, easy puzzles, hive missions were a drag, and honestly, the combat just wasn't fun or even remotely satisfying. And with 96% of players dropping since release and a $48 million loss on the project, Square Enix is feeling the pain too. If you don't know what Crucible is, you'd be forgiven. It was Amazon's first major gaming title, and it was meant to be a competitor to the likes of Overwatch and Valorant. Unfortunately, it was one of the biggest flops in gaming history, and it just wasn't diverse enough with only one map. It launched on May the 20th, 2020 for Windows after being in development since 2014. It was the first game, besides the obvious of course, to be released and then unreleased after 1 month, returning to a closed beta status on June the 30th, 2020. It would then die an unremarkable death on October the 9th, 2020. It's a shame, because the way the game worked and played was really interesting. There isn't anything else that could be number 1. To do so would just be disingenuous on our part, so let's talk about the gaming industry's issues with abuse. 2020 was a year that these issues really bubbled to the surface, but they've been going on for a lot longer than that. According to allegations from industry members, there are a number of companies who have fostered an uncomfortable working environment for men and women. Allegations range from inappropriate comments to assault, and because of the tight-knit inner workings of the game industry, many people who have come forward feel like they are unable to do anything about it without damaging their career. Pair these allegations with the well-documented expectation of crunch, the game industry is, honestly, a mess. It leaves talented people underpaid, burnt out, or worse, with few empowered to make any of this better. I know we said Cyberpunk wouldn't be on this list, but for us, what was most disappointing about the game wasn't the bugs and the glitches. That almost pales in comparison to the allegations of crunch facing CD Projekt. Did you really expect a perfect game when workers claimed they felt pressured to work up to 13 hours a day, 5 days a week by senior management? It's important to highlight the crunch culture in the studio behind it, along with many other game studios from AAA to indie, that highlights a worrying culture in the games industry that needs to change. How can we expect any game to be perfect when the industry is as messed up as it is? When workers feel unsafe working on your favorite games? We owe it to everyone to scrutinize the ways in which games are produced and demand better treatment for the people who produce our favorite forms of media. Thank you for watching.